Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. I'm Chamaka Ohauchi. It is now very obvious that the Nigerian tax system is set for a rebirth, as evidenced in the retreat that the Senate held in the current Akwa Ibom State on the 19th of October 2023. Quickly following that was the submission of the Quick Wins report of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms to President Tinubu on Tuesday, the 24th of October. As it is, all ends are being tied up. Or what else can you say about a project for which we already have the buy-in of the legislature and the executive? A lot has also been said about factors standing in the way of a smooth and efficient tax system in Nigeria, factors which necessitated the empaneling of the Presidential Committee. Mr. Oyedele succinctly summarized this at the post-presentation press conference at the Villa.
Multiplicity of taxes. We have over 60 taxes and levies officially collectible by federal government, state government, and local government. Unofficially, those taxes are over 200, making life difficult for our people. So the objective we have, and that's what we're working towards, is to bring all of that to a single digit. So the taxes at all levels of government combined, we think should be less than 10. Some of the reforms we need to introduce, speaking to traders, Matan, and they said to us, people selling pure water in the market collect, they call it tickets, 7 tickets every single day. Why should someone who is just trying to, hawk pure water to keep body and soul together have to pay 7 taxes on a daily basis? It doesn't make a lot of sense to us. Think about young Nigerians, many of them very smart and intelligent, but today we have legal and tax impediments that will not allow global organizations to hire Nigerians in Nigeria to work within the global value system. We will remove those impediments so that people can then gain employment and dollars while they're here in Nigeria, which not only helps with our foreign exchange management, but ensures that people also have prosperity to live themselves and families from poverty. And of course, they will pay taxes on their income to the government. This is just, milestone number 1 is what we call the Quick Wins.
The Quick Wins report contains measures to address duplication of functions in public service, ensure prudent public financial management, and optimize value from government assets and natural resources. Use of technology, data for tax to expand the tax net. Increase personal income tax exempt threshold and personal relief allowances. Permit the payment of taxes on foreign currency denominated transactions in Naira for Nigerian businesses. Suspension of VAT on diesel and tax waivers on compressed natural gas. Facilitate the use of mobile phones for conditional cash transfers. Suspension of multiple taxes which place burdens on the poor and small businesses, and compensate with windfall revenue on certain agencies. Modify tax pro-marks to allow taxpayers to make part payments of outstanding tax liabilities. Grant waiver of penalty and interest on the condition of full payment of outstanding tax liabilities on or before 31st December 2023. To achieve the quick wins, President Tinubu has directed his special advisor on policy coordination to liaise with all relevant government agencies with a view to getting the recommendations to be quickly dealt with. Where amendment to legislation is necessary, the Oyedele Committee has already swung into action.
Those critical reforms involves even rewriting our major tax laws. Some of the reforms we need to introduce, we have to go to the Constitution itself.
Welcome once again. We are still staying with the story of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, and we are happy to report that support is coming from all corners. On Wednesday, the 11th of October 2023, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria hosted the maiden edition of the National Essay Competition of the Association of Nigerian Taxation Students, ANTAS, with support from the UNDP. Topic of the essay competition was fiscal policy and tax reforms, the implications for national development in Nigeria's high inflation economy.
I welcome you all to the grand finale of the Hunters Essay Competition, holding today, Wednesday, October 11, 2023.
84 Hunters members from across the country registered for the essay competition. 34 entries were received for the first stage. 12 first entries were selected to participate in the second stage on the topic, exploring the pros and cons of implementing a national wealth tax as a revenue generation tool for the government. The best 3 contestants who emerged from the 2 stages were invited to the event of October 11 to defend their essays. Mr. Simon Kato, Deputy Vice President of the Institute who represented the President, gave this pep talk.
The question is, what are your thoughts about how you will take your experiences beyond today? Because this is not for you to just do a competition and win a prize. Our expectation is tomorrow we will hear that you guys are graduates and you've excelled in your chosen field and you are now the proud professionals we'll have in this profession. All we are doing today is to end up mentoring and bringing up sound, young Nigerians that will stand and hold this institute tomorrow.
The 3 finalists were then invited to make their presentations. At the end of it all, prizes were presented to the finalists.
So stand up for the champions, stand up.
Tax Matter spoke to the finalists on the link between their essays and the work of the Oyedele committee.
My essay entry contained identification of problems regarding taxation, and then it also included very detailed recommendation on how to create a brighter and better future of tax in Nigeria. And although I've been unable to read the entry of other participants, but I've had 2 others speak today, and I can say for a fact that each entry is well packaged with a lot of information that will be very instrumental in building a better future for taxation in Nigeria.
For the Presidential Tax Committee, I referenced their work and how establishing the committee is a step in the right direction in revitalizing the economy. And I believe that they are going to, because the committee consists of experts from the private and public sector. So I believe they are going to make impacts, provide adequate solutions, that will address the macroeconomic challenges Nigeria currently faces. I believe that they are going to, try to create sound fiscal policies that would address high inflation, all of these issues going on in Nigeria today.
The young shall grow. Dr. Abiola Adimola is the chairman, CITN Students Affairs and Tertiary Education Relations Committee. We sought to know from her the idea behind the National Essay Competition.
A lot have been said about fiscal policy and tax reforms. And so, to be able to be part of this, we have put up this essay competition so that students all over the country can participate and bring in their own contributions intellectually to the national debates. And so, as we talk, we are able to gather a lot of information for the Presidential Committee of Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms that we intend to submit officially as our position paper for ANTAS and CITN. So this is the major reason why we have done this.
It is an offense punishable by a fine of 10 million naira and or imprisonment for any agency of the federal government other than FIRS to demand for books or returns for the purposes of tax. It is also an offense to carry out the function of assessment, collection or enforcement of tax or pay any portion of tax revenue to any person or into any account other than the relevant accounts designated by the Constitution or relevant laws of the National Assembly. It pays to pay your tax. This message is brought to you by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
As a taxman, two questions are in my mind when I read about how fantastic FinTech is doing and their capability. The first question as a taxman is, how can we help fledgling FinTech sector to scale higher in Nigeria? And the second question as a taxman is, how can FinTech help us to change the fortune of our low tax to GDP ratio?
It's all about collaboration and opportunity to hear from FRS and for FRS to also hear from the industry itself and understand better the way fintechs do business and the antecedent tax issues. No doubt the fintech business or the fintech industry in Nigeria is huge and is the largest in Africa.
Soundbites there from the FIRS hosted stakeholder engagement with operators in the fintech industry in Nigeria. One of the fastest growing sectors of the Nigerian economy is the telecommunications sector, which in turn has given birth to the fintech subsector. The taxing authorities at the national and subnational levels have taken due notice of this development and are fully conscious of the tax implications therefrom. In continuation of the stakeholders' engagement currently being undertaken by the FIRS, the service met with operators in the fintech industry on Thursday, the 19th of October 2023. To put the event together, the FIRS partnered with the KPMG.
This gathering is a testament to our shared commitment, to our vision of rendering quality service to our stakeholder. As we all know, good understanding brings efficiency in service delivery. Over the course of this event, we will dissect the various components of the fintech value chain and explore how these elements can be leveraged to enhance the tax compliance process, from digital payment solution to data analytics, blockchain, and artificial intelligence. We will uncover how each component play a critical and crucial role in modernizing our approach to tax collection. We aim to understand how fintech can help us create a more transparent, convenient, and taxpayer-friendly system while upholding the integrity of our tax law.
Earlier on in the year, we had a similar conference that was devoted, to fintech. We're just trying to understand the issues that fintech faced. It became apparent to us, at that stakeholders meeting, that there was a misalignment in expectations in terms of what fintechs are looking for and what FIRS are demanding. As far as the fintech industry is concerned, what it's saying is that, look, they've got so many challenges, but FIRS does not seem to understand the challenges. They seem just to be focused on wanting to collect taxes. But how can you collect taxes if you cannot understand the way our business runs, our business model? And as far as the FIRS is concerned, they've seen, the progress and the successes that, big fintech companies have made. And the question is, where's the money? You guys are not complying with your statutory, obligations. We can't say the taxes. So you can see there's a misalignment of expectation. It was at that point that we realized that, look, we got to bring both parties together. We got to understand, each other. FIRS need to understand the business model within the fintech industry, and the fintech industry also needs to understand the reasons why FIRS, does what they do.
While identifying the important place of the fintech industry in the growth of the economy, Hajia Minado, Coordinating Director, Special Tax Operations Group of the FIRS, placed emphasis on the need for both the industry and the FIRS to understand their different modes of operation.
It is very important that we talk together, we exchange ideas on how to move the industry forward, and also how to ensure compliance, not just with tax matters, but generally. Because as we all know, the financial industry is very important and it's also regulated. So fintechs obviously are a fusion of technology and finance. And we know that that space is not only about just banking. It could also, there's the insurance, there is the e-commerce part of it, there is education, and so on and so forth. The technology space, there is a lot of innovation. A lot of you are trying to settle, and things will evolve. But that is why you are also interesting, because that you are bringing change that is very beneficial, like Mr. Wale mentioned, making it easier, increasing financial inclusion, and so on and so forth. And not just that, you are also, some of you provide services to FIRS and to the government, and so on and so forth. So this conversation is very important because it allows us to interact, understand each other better, so that we can all ensure that the system is sound for our collective benefit. Very, very important, because we might think that it's a disturbance, but it is not. If the system doesn't work, we will all pay the price at some point. So I urge us to look at this positively, because I can tell you that we all here we love the innovation. We love the innovation that you guys are bringing to the table. But we want to make sure that at the end of the day, the system is working.
Opening formalities over, the event went underway. The first session was a presentation on tax compliance requirements for fintech companies, which was delivered by Mrs. Clara Obase, Tax Controller, Large Tax Office, Non-Oil Financial.
Compliance is very, very key. Once you know the right thing to do from the beginning, it guides you all along. Section 53(1) Companies Income Tax Act Cap 21 LFN 204 as amended to date provide that every company under Section 52, 55, and 58 of the Act shall file return, compute the tax payable by the company for the year of assessment, forward with the tax returns and evidence of payment of tax returns. Section 55 is very, very key. Section 55 says every company in Nigeria, whether exempted or not, must file return once in a year. Returns means your audited accounts, your tax and capital allowances for the year of assessment, a duly completed self-assessment form as may be prescribed by the service, evidence of payment of the whole or part of the tax due into a bank designated for the collection of tax. The law requires you to voluntarily comply, but in a situation whereby you do not obey the law, that is when enforcement comes in. As a taxpayer, the law requires you to prepare your returns, your accounts, file it, and you know you have different time for filing. And those times are very, very sacrosanct. Peradventure, you are not going to keep to the time. The law equally requires you to notify FIRS before time, before your filing date. Know that interest would start accruing after the initial due date. Note also the due date of filing and due date of payment are covered. Consequently, any additional tax arising as a result of incorrect disclosure or reporting of profit shall attract interest and penalty from the date the tax was first due for payment, irrespective of when the incorrect disclosure was discovered. If we discover that you've not, your returns are not accurate, we discover any time we discover it, it means if your due date was January, penalty starts. It's not that date that it was discovered. You go back to that period.
Mrs. Obasi also took the participants through the taxes payable by them. You are still onto tax matters, and we are taking you through what transpired at the stakeholders engagement for operators in the fintech industry. Next was a presentation on fintech tax obligations for a better nation, delivered by Mr. Oluwole Oni. He began with this backgrounder.
We are the largest economy in Africa with a population of 220 million people. Our GDP is more than half of the whole of West Africa. And talking about GDP, for the past 10 years, Nigeria, over 10 years, we have been the leading country in GDP in Africa. But if you look closely, you can see that Egypt is inching closer. South Africa is also inching closer. And why they've not overtaken us is because of fintech industry. Because fintech industry is contributing seriously to our GDP. We are glad to know that fintech last quarter contributed over 18% to our GDP. And if at all Egypt and South Africa eventually overtake us, the only thing that can bring us back to our rightful position as the first is also fintech. The fintech sector is not limited to financial sector. They are everywhere. When you look at the FDI that comes to Africa, Nigeria takes over 30% of that FDI. I was surprised to read in the internet that the biggest bank in Nigeria is valued at 1.6 billion US dollars. And the biggest, one of the biggest digital company here in your country, Nigeria, is valued at over 3.6 billion. And fintech just started a few years ago. ICT accounts for 18% of GDP. And when you look at Nigeria, our dear country, a population of 220 million, 60% of us are under 25, and we are digital natives. So why am I giving all these statistics? It shows that the future of our revenue is highly dependent on fintech. As a taxman, two questions are in my mind when I read about how fantastic fintech is doing and their capability. The first question as a taxman is, how can we help fledgling fintech sector to scale higher in Nigeria? And the second question as a taxman is, how can fintech help us to change the fortune of our low tax to GDP ratio? And that is where we are here today. And we are here today to understand fintech value chain, to prevent double taxation and double non-taxation. Also, we want to know how we can partner with fintech. And we also want to let fintech know about their tax obligation to non-residents or as partners with non-residents.
It was not a one-sided affair. It was not just taxman and woman talking to the taxpayers. Rather, it was a two-way affair wherein the fintech operators were also able to educate the taxmen on what they do and how they do it. Except,
I'll first start with what we do at Flutterwave. We are primarily a payment solution service provider. In layman's terms, we are a gateway company. We enable you to be able to pay for services that you enjoy. We enable merchants to also collect funds from their customers as well. So if you think of it like a gateway, you want to enter somebody's house, the gate has to be open for you to be able to enter that house. Generally, we are just a gateway company. We allow merchants receive funds wherever their customers are across Africa and beyond as well. Hopefully, as the industry develops and we have more interactions like this, and thanks to KPMG and FIRS for making this happen, I've been looking for this for a very long time, because now I'm very sure that our very senior FIRS officers here will then be able to go back to the field officers that come to better educate them about when you come and you see these big volumes, it doesn't translate to revenue. And we can then find a way also to manage the stamp duties as well to see where really the burden of actually paying the FIRS should even come to.
Basically, Chipper Cash is a peer-to-peer payment system service company. And what we do is transfer funds for users in Chipper, be it from Chipper to Chipper users or from Chipper to a bank account or a mobile money wallet. So having said that, over my time here at Chipper, I have witnessed a few issues that has pretty much bothered and dragged, let me put it that way, dragged our conversations when it comes to dealing with the FIRS. And that would be like Israel, as previously mentioned, having to report on your actual revenue against what is on your rails. When it comes to that, you would expect me to pay the 7.5% VAT on that, let's say the $100 that he had mentioned. But when in fact, I'm actually supposed to only remit on the $1 that is the commission that I have actually earned on that fund.
Time or time, it's time to go, and so we have to make a promise here. This expose on the tax obligations of operators in the fintech industry and how, like Mr. Oni said, they can help to boost the revenue profile of Nigeria will come to you in a subsequent episode of the program. So do make it a point to join us next episode. Same station, same day of the week, and same time of the day. Thank you for watching.